Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Fintech Combine. I am your host, Kris Kovacs, and this is the series where we talk with and sometimes about community-based institutions, their digital and business transformation projects, and we meet the innovators, entrepreneurs, and fintechs that make it all possible. I'm very excited to welcome Sam Paxton to this episode of the show. Sam is the founder and lead investor at Power and Light Collaborative, and we're going to talk about her new venture. But, she's everywhere in credit unions, so we're going to talk about what her thoughts are on 2024 and what changes she has seen in the industry. So if you're ready, let's suit up and get out on the field. Sam, thank you very much for joining us today. I'm so excited to have you on the show. We talk to credit union people, we talk to fintechs, we talk to other kinds of entrepreneurs. For those who aren't necessarily connected to the credit union industry or who don't know you yet, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and kind of what you're doing today?
Sure. And it's great to be here, Kris. You are just a giant in this industry, and I'm very honored to be on the show. I'm Samantha Paxton. I'm a business transformation strategist and growth activator, and I just spent the last 25 years of my career helping co-op solutions and the payments industry grow and to help credit unions grow. And I was the chief experience officer for the last 8 years of that organization and was very focused on this idea of client centricity and member centricity and how we make choices and design our organizations to be in service to our buyer, our member, our client, and kind of rethink our growth strategy from moving away from our perspective to their perspective. And it's really hard to do. It's a very much a change in kind of our set of assumptions and what's worked for us before, but it's something that I really am passionate about and kind of love being in service to the market.
What do you think the value to a client or an institution or to a fintech? What do you think is the value to them of taking a customer or member-centric approach?
It shifts the thinking from what do I have to sell you to what problem am I solving for you? What can I offer you that helps you move your business forward or your life forward in a way that is aligned to our original idea for existing. So for example, in my previous organization, we were about providing access, convenience, connection to enable credit unions to compete in a rapidly changing world. And so over that period of time, launched 150 products, 150 use cases or enhancements. And we tend to think, organizations tend to think, how can we grow? How can we grow revenue? How can we grow top line and more users and more engagement in order to help ourselves? Even though our mission, like in credit unions, our mission is to help people. But really, what is that value proposition? And are we maximizing that value proposition in order to grow? And it's a different way of thinking, of really putting, understanding your buyer, putting that buyer first, understanding the what's in it for them, the business case for that buyer, in designing every next best action according to what that buyer wants and that buyer's behavior. So it's a very different strategy. We're moving from a product-centric world to a truly consumer-centric, member-centric, buyer-centric world. And it takes a minute to have organizations reframe that way of thinking. There are several organizations doing this well in the banking industry. Chime, look at Chime. They are focusing on near-term needs of the consumer. They even call their consumers members. And they've done this so well in the past 10 years that they have doubled the size of Navy. Navy Credit Union, the largest credit union in the country, has 12 million members. Chime has 22 million, and they did it in 10 years, where Navy, it took 100. And
Mm-hmm.
they are focused on this idea of deeply understanding that member base, that human centricity, and understanding what do they need short term and what do they
Mm-hmm.
need long term. And they have
Right.
figured out the use cases that are going to help them with their short term financial performance and what they're going to need
Right.
in the short term, which creates engagement, it creates usability, and they're
Mm-hmm.
doing it through a digital first framework where
Mm-hmm.
we're having in the credit union industry, we've been having to transform and shift the way that we're delivering solutions. And we tend to think about it through our own balance sheet lens. So we think about what we're delivering in the way that is going to drive the greatest amount of revenue or top line growth for
Mm-hmm.
us. And that's typically, many people have heard me say this, it's typically through a loan. And a loan product is something that you do every 5 to 7 years. How do
Right.
you, and when you look at it from a product centric perspective, yes, it is something that is lucrative and it's rate based and it is useful for the consumer. And that consumer also has short term financial needs. And so, what are all of the ways that we're helping that consumer with their short term financial needs so that they're active, engaged, interactive members that always choose their credit union
Mm-hmm.
for the use case that they need at the time. And I think this is a big shift for our credit unions and for our industry as they're trying to make the best strategic bets, the next best use cases they should be
Mm-hmm.
inculcating into their credit union in order to be competitive and to really demonstrate their value. This is what most leaders are challenged with, what fintechs are trying to come into the market and help solve for.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the typical leader at the moment is just a little overwhelmed.
Is there, obviously you and I have both been around this industry for a long time, right?
Yep.
And I completely understand and believe what you're saying. I think one of the challenges must be inside of an institution who owns this process,
Yeah.
right? Because you're talking about, I've got some member experience, I've got some financial considerations, I've got marketing and the like. From a best practices standpoint, who leads this kind of effort inside of an institution?
So it's a great point. So you don't see my title, my last official W-2 title was Chief Experience Officer. And part of my
Right.
job was to take client insights and market insights, synthesize those together, and partner with our Chief Strategy Officer, with our Chief Product
Right.
Officer, with our Chief Operating Officer, and
Right.
make those choices that we're going to create the stickiest relationship and the best experience for our clients and their members, which were credit unions. The
Right.
thing that is a shift is that the way we have all traditionally operated is in silos. We have
Mm-hmm.
run kind of the 20th century way of doing business, and we're now almost 25 years ahead of where we were in the 20th century. Was that it was very top down hierarchical. The CEO was all
For sure.
knowing. They kind of spread those insights to
Right.
each vertical, each department head, and then they would operate in their verticals. Being a
Mm-hmm.
digital first organization means that those verticals go from here to here. They go from vertical to
Mm-hmm.
horizontal. This is why a lot of buying experiences that any credit union leaders that are on this call will likely be nodding their heads, and probably vendors selling into credit unions
Mm-hmm.
are experiencing this. It requires a team of 20 people to make a buying decision, which slows things down. Because
Yes,
as
it
digital
does.
first organizations, we have to operate in a really connected, collaborative way. You can't make it a decision that you might make in the product area. Very much, you have a deep dependence on the marketing area and the technology
Mm-hmm.
area and the operating area. And you have to find paths to collaborate, cooperate, and anticipate the way those decisions will impact each of those functional areas, and have a
Right.
machine like approach to making that really fast and really smooth to ensure that you have a successful deployment of a new
Yeah.
technology or a new initiative or a new strategy. These decisions have to be made partially through process, partially through designating ownership, that this is going to be shared with the chief lending officer, the chief operating officer, and the chief retail officer, and they come together, going to make this decision and then move forward. So it's a very different, I think this is why the work is more challenging than it's ever been. And it's super exciting. It's super exciting if we can get out of our own way in the ways that we operate and make those decisions. We can ensure that we're out in front of the consumer, and the consumer is choosing us, and we don't trip over ourselves as we implement digital first engagements and solutions and ways to grow.
Yeah, I think it's important too that it's not just about the buy, right? Because I've seen some circumstances where institutions got the right people in the room, they made the right decision, they bought the right product, and then they tried to get a committee of 30 to make every decision about the use of that product going forward, right? And that just gets gummed up over time because it's no longer about making a one-time purchase decision. How do you keep it going? How do you keep that moving that forward? Because this is an iterative process, right? This isn't a one and done.
Absolutely. And this leads me to, thinking about fintechs. But I'm going to come back to that in a minute. That iterative process requires really strong strategic governance. So not only I ran experience, I also ran the PMO. And the purpose of the PMO, you need such strong project management that is connecting the dots between each functional area and driving strategic adherence. We had a very, very rigorous product development lifecycle to ensure that we weren't going to drop important steps as we rolled out a new product. And what is the implementation experience? What is the service model? How do we smooth out the bumps from awareness to consideration to contract to billing to actual implementation to servicing that product? And what would that product then fit within? What other solutions does that go with to help that end user have the best interaction with the credit union? I mentioned fintechs a moment ago. It isn't just about getting the buy. And this is where I started a company called the Power and Light Collaborative. This is where this idea came about. I started noticing that all of these fintechs have entered the market, and you're seeing it all the time. We go to wonderful conferences like Venture Tech, and we've got Circle and Reseda Group, and wonderful consultants in this space like CU2 and all of these great people that really have the right mission at heart. We're investing in tech firms. We're finding the use cases that make the most sense. Sometimes we get to that end step. I'm going to implement this particular AI tool or this particular use case. And what most fintechs have done is that they've come up with an idea, they've generated a product, and then they sell the product. One of the challenges is they haven't anticipated what their buyer is really going to need. They're not selling a product, they're selling an outcome. And what outcome does this product actually deliver? And how is that outcome going to be deployed in a complex technology environment where you have to think about the payments platform, the lending operating system, the digital banking platform, and the core, all of those points of integration. You have to think about the operating environment, all of these different, what does the marketing team need to do? What does the technology team need to do? What does the operating team need to do? What many tech firms are realizing is that I not only have to have a really great product, I have to make sure that that product really delivers the value of that I had originally thought about when I started this product. And I have to anticipate all of the impact to those teams in deploying that product. Many fintechs miss this. And what happens is that the credit union has to come and do all of this work to ingest and properly utilize that use case. And
Right.
many credit unions say, I'm out. I don't trust this. I'm not going to work with this fintech because they haven't done the work. And
Right.
so the power of the Power and Light Collaborative is that we're really partnering with providers in the credit union space and credit unions to say, what's happening in my complete journey of
Right.
go to market?
Yeah.
It's a mix of CX, client experience, and journey mapping from the end consumer and the buyer. It's a mix of marketing analysis and market analysis. It's a mix of sales optimization and overarching strategy. What is the strategy, the growth strategy of this organization, and how are we going to uncover the bumps in that strategy to optimize it and ensure you're actually paying off your value proposition for your buyer? And so we're really seeking to help credit unions uncover their gaps in their members' buying journey. And how can you smooth that out based on who that member set is? And for tech firms and vendors, we're really looking at how can we make sure that we're smoothing out the ways that you're actually going to market and the strategic bets that you've made to ensure you actually find the growth optimization that you're seeking to achieve. And so there just is a chasm between firms and credit unions that I'm seeking to close.
So an engagement with a fintech might be, hey, you have a product, it's really helping kind of fill in that product market fit.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Helping get to the point where there is now compelling interest by credit unions to solve that problem. And you're helping give them some perspective into that otherwise they wouldn't have until they went out on the road and banged their head against the wall 100 times. And they're like, oh, maybe we should solve this problem.
Yes, yes. And sometimes it's just in how they talk about themselves. Sometimes it's in they hadn't thought through the service model. Sometimes it's that they need to do a few more integrations. Sometimes I'm working with 40-year-old companies and companies that are 10 years old and companies that are a year old. And they all have a little bit of a different flavor, but there's the same thing that we kind of have this myopia in terms of strategy. We tend to prioritize immediate tasks and measurable outcomes over these like long-term adaptive strategies. And partly that's because we all have to answer to a board, show positive results. We're under the gun, but sometimes we're not thinking it all through. And it helps to have this set of third-party brains. I have a team of fractional leaders that are ex-chief growth officers, ex-chief revenue officers, ex-chief experience officers, like this fractional talent that has done this for years. And this enables companies to really get that at a fraction of the price and have these brains that can come in and really find their opportunity to, we call it ZAG, which is zoom, adapt, and grow. And this is something that I'm just seeing as a gap in the market. And when I became a free agent, I just said, this is something that I did within the organization in my past organization. And I've always been, you and I had worked together for a while. I've always been really customer obsessed. It does my heart good. I love it. I love ensuring that all clients have the best experience because I feel like that is really the right thing to do. It has integrity. And what I love about the credit union industry, it is such an industry of integrity. I've loved the mission of the credit union industry. And the credit union industry needs help. It's never had so many shifts and changes and challenges, and so many CEOs have so many pressures. And so how do we just make it easier and really reframe what our value proposition is to the market, and how can we use fintechs and these new market entrants to really deliver for the consumer in the way that they expect.
Do you think, how much of those challenges do you think are being driven by, say, environmental competitor, new competitors, sometimes asymmetric players like Chime and others, right? Versus kind of the digital maturing of the consumer?
That's a really good question. And the research that I've done, and you may know or not know, I've been an advisor in residence with EY for several months, and also worked with them for many years on doing proprietary research to really understand not only the challenges of the credit union and the strategic bets they need to place, but the challenges of the consumer. And I think we didn't recognize as an industry not only the shifts of technology, but the really rapidly evolving needs of the consumer. We figured it out as an industry kind of late. And we're a wait and see, risk averse, because we're highly regulated. It makes sense, for us to do that. It's in our culture, it's in our DNA. From my perspective, the advancement of technology and consumer adoption of that top technology and their zest to go find it and figure it out themselves go hand in hand. It's so easy. You just need a phone. All you need is a phone, and you can pull down the apps and the use cases that best meet your needs. And today's consumer, cross-generational, from boomers down to Gen Z and below, like younger than that, are so comfortable now because of how big brands like Amazon, like Google, like Apple, like all of these organizations, that now they've just set the standard of this is how you have to behave. And this is how they've set the expectation of this is how you will serve the consumer. And it has required such an acceleration of transformation. And especially with the advancement of AI, probably the biggest and most important and impactful innovation since the internet.
How do you think AI has impacted the credit union in 2024, credit union industry in 2024? Are they taking it seriously, or is it a wait and see?
I think they're taking it seriously. I mean, if we were having this conversation 3-4 years ago, the word would have been crypto. We would have been talking about crypto. This is, from my perspective, light years more important than that particular topic. But it kind of goes back to and I'll come back to this, but it reminds me of what I said at the top of this podcast, is that AI is a tool to help you better serve the consumer, for you to better deliver service and innovation to the consumer based on those consumer needs. And we tend to get shiny object syndrome as an industry. Like, we're looking for that next use case that's super shiny. And if we have that product, we're going to be great. That isn't what it's about. I mean, I spoke at a conference with Mary Wisniewski a month and a half ago. And she made this great comment that I just loved, is that she said, many people ask, like, what's your AI strategy? And she said, it reminds me of saying, well, what's your Excel strategy? What's your PowerPoint strategy? It's a technology that enables you to do your work in a different way. And with the outcome of really driving consumer engagement. And what credit unions are seeking to do is win the primary financial interaction. That is PFI. We're trying to win the primary financial interaction. AI is helping us, in the typical use cases, contact center, fraud, reg tech, our looking at member experience across every journey, the buying journey, the spending journey, the lending journey, the wealth journey, all of these things that a consumer is seeking to do, it actually speeds it up. It creates efficiency, and it's really based on the imagination of the leader to say, where do we need to improve, not or shore up our risk while improving our consumer experience so that they always choose us. We have a crisis, I think, in the credit union industry, in that we have dormancy with our members, and we somewhat kid ourselves that, oh, I have 60,000 members. How many of those members are using that credit union every day?
Yeah.
What are the use cases and the interactions that are going to create extreme usability and extreme utility and extreme ease for the member, so that they say, I trust my credit union to not only do not only have my back, but to have the capability to deliver what I need and to anticipate what I need and deliver it to me in the way that I want. And that's the shift. Seth Godin has this saying that says, polishing yesterday's work isn't as useful in a world that's in a state of flux. We can't polish what we used to do. We have to really think about it from the consumer experience. And who is our consumer? Start with the existing consumer, start with the existing member, and to say, what next best action should that consumer be taking so that we demonstrate our value to them?
One of the most important things about product design and product delivery, in my mind, is what you take out. Right? Credit unions have many of the credit unions, that I've seen, and our friend Jeff Klein, right, will tell you that when you've seen one credit union, you've seen one credit union, right? You haven't seen them all, but there's sometimes an unwillingness to take things out, right? To say, it is little used, it is dormant, that service, that feature, that function. Let's go ahead and turn that off, and let's turn our attentions and efforts into building something new, instead of becoming like this, like digital arthritis around our credit unions, right? Where we're holding on to everything, right? Is part of what you do from an engagement perspective with credit unions include things you need to peel away, like things you need to stop doing?
Yes. There's some great examples of credit unions that have done that. Like it's an older example, but Alliant made that decision. They said, we're gonna really shift our branch strategy and go all in on digital. So they took the money they were spending over there and they put it over here to ensure that they were meeting their members' needs. But the reason organizations like that make those decisions is that they focused first on, what do we know about our buyer? What do we know about our consumer? What do we know about our member? Let's get really clear on what we know about our member and start small. Start with, who are your existing members and how do you get them engaging with you today? How are they engaging with you and what solutions are they using? So instead of looking at the shift, is that we look at our credit union success through a spreadsheet. Like, we look at it through a spreadsheet, and we look at it product line by product line by product line to see how that product line is performing.
Right.
What I recommend is look at it member segment through member segment through member segment. Bundle solutions according to that journey and say, what's being used and what's not being used, what's performing and what's not performing. And you peel back, these prepaid cards nobody's using. Like, why are we offering prepaid cards? What's the expense of prepaid cards? And let's use this idea of costivation. I have a good friend, Stephen Wonker, who writes for Harvard Business Review. He was an old Think speaker. And he has this idea that innovation is doing exactly what you're saying. How do you spend with precision? How do you cut expense with precision? And how do you innovate with precision in order to drive deeper utilization,
Right.
engagement, and top line growth based on the member. I always love to
Right.
say the member is the P&L, the consumer is the P&L, because they are so empowered to make a different choice 15 times a day. Am I going to use my credit union or am I going to use Venmo? Am I going to use Zelle or am I going to use SoFi? Am I going to use
Right.
Rocket Mortgage or am I going to use Coastal Credit Union?
Right. Right.
There's so many different decisions, and my friend Ron Shevlin likes to say
Yep.
the average consumer has 40 different financial relationships.
Yeah.
Why? Why? They need
Yeah.
to, how are we demonstrating what we do well as credit unions and that we can show up and we can be the choice
Right.
for the consumer?
It is interesting, and sometimes it's because maybe we're too in the industry, right? We know too much about what's happening and going on. Just last week, yeah, last week, I had to open a new account for a business item, right? And I actually sat down and thought about it. Where am I going to open this account, right? Am I going to open it at the credit union that is my primary financial institution personally? Am I going to do it at the credit union that is our Constellations kind of
Yeah.
business institution? Or am I going to pick a local bank nearby who might specialize in this type of account, right? And we don't do that often enough, perhaps, in this industry to really be thinking about the different things that consumers are weighing when they're making that decision, right?
Yes.
And that's how you end up with, 9 statements and 15 logins to different services.
Well, what was your criteria?
Well, and that's what it came down to, right? So I was making an investment and I needed an LLC. Long story
Yeah.
short, had to open up an account with that LLC. You've done that
Yes,
recently,
I have.
right? And what I realized was I didn't need something that had advanced features because this was a holding account for an investment, right? Um, so I was very comfortable saying, okay, well, which of the accounts is most convenient for me? Well, it's probably where I do my regular personal business, and I went in and opened it at my credit union there, right? But had I needed ACH and wire processing and some other things on a more regular basis, I might have made a different decision, right? Because it would have been what my needs were for that type of account.
It's such a great example, and I've lived this myself a lot
Mm-hmm.
in the last 6 months. And I was actually shocked. I was shocked. I thought the experience was the same at every
Mm-hmm.
FI. So I investigated a credit union, which they're not always known for being small business,
That's right.
um, you know, small business friendly.
Yeah.
I visited two multinational banks,
Mm-hmm.
and I was shocked by the difference between one multinational bank and the other multinational bank. And
Okay.
the one I actually went and moved my account because one of
Mm-hmm.
the experiences I had to authenticate 6 ways before I could get in. And I have team members all across the country. So
Right.
um, it was so hard to get in to the business banking account. Then when I got
Mm-hmm.
in, I had to think like a banker. Like it was written
Right.
in banking terms. And if you're starting a small business, it was obviously done based on the perspective of that bank, like the
Mm-hmm.
way that they had set
Yeah.
themselves up. The other, I finally, it was so hard to do it. I just couldn't do my business. It just made it
Yeah.
impossible. And small business owners have a lot on their minds and there's a lot to do.
Yes.
And
Yes, we do.
so it was the classic example of you can't just say you have a product and have that
Right.
product.
Right.
It's ensuring that have I thought through the way that this buyer is going to start the process? What they're going to
Right.
get first, it's so hard we spend marketing dollars to get in the consideration set. We spend a
Yep.
lot of money to do that. Then when you
Yep.
get them there, Do you make them come into the branch to get a wet signature and go through a 2-hour process to bring your tax ID documents and all of that stuff?
Right.
And then,
Right.
then when you actually get digitally onboarded, I had to call the contact center and get a service experience that was offshore. Then I had to get it, ACH wasn't included. Like there's all of these things.
Yeah.
I contrast that with the other multinational bank. I was assigned a concierge. I was given digital access. They gave me all the branch. If you need a branch, this is where you go. They anticipated everything that I might need. Sometimes you need a proxy as a person that can actually do the transactions for you because as the CEO, you're busy and doing other things. So it was so surprising to me that same product, two different providers, and I was going to do everything with this other institution. I tried my credit union. They don't even offer it.
Right.
But it was so surprising to me, the difference in experience and how easy it is to lose that business because consumers are so empowered and feel so comfortable moving. It's such a myth that it's hard to move. It's not hard to move.
Yeah, there's that don't build it for yourself, right?
Yes.
And frankly, if you're not out using other services, right? You need to go out and use other services. You need to see what's out there so you can be inspired by it, but you can also understand kind of where your strengths are and where they aren't.
Absolutely.
And we talk about don't use, like sometimes when we're writing things, we'll say, hey, don't write it like you're a credit union employee, write it from a member's perspective, right? Well, that goes for the entire experience, to your point. And what I think your firm probably can help a lot of fintechs and a lot of credit unions discover is that taking that member-centric approach, understanding it from their perspective, will increase the likelihood of success.
Absolutely. And experience design, it isn't just UX, it's the entire experience and outcome you're delivering. So it is something that I just think is so core to everything that we do. I mean, I actually think credit unions are the originators of CX. We realized credit unions saw an opportunity in the 1930s that banks are not serving member needs. They are missing member needs. We have to always keep that central to who we are. What are our member needs and how should we be providing services to meet those needs? And I think in our maturity as an industry, and this want to compete and be able to compete with JP Morgan Chase and BofA and all of these large institutions. We're nimble, we share, we collaborate. And we need partners, and we need to hold partners to an expectation of look, this is our mission. We are about members and that member journey because we don't want to have 60,000 members where 30,000 of them are actually real members. We want to have 60,000 members that are high performing, high utilizing, fully invested members in our credit union. And they're going to love it so much. We're going to get the next 60,000 members, and that's how you grow. But you need partners that are set up to be able to deliver that for you, that think like that, and align with credit unions thinking of let's make sure we're safe, we're secure, and we're anticipatory of member needs, and then we over-deliver for those needs, and they'll choose us every time.
Did you have? I want to change gears a little bit. Did you have concerns? Concerns might not be the right word. So you were with Co-op for a long time, right? Then you've got the opportunity to step out and do. Did you have any concerns starting up as an entrepreneur? Because you helped found Power and Light, right? So you made the decision to be an entrepreneur. Talk a little bit about making that switch from working for one of the largest organizations in the industry to being a entrepreneur, picking your own place to put your bank account.
Well, I don't think I consciously made that decision. I had the honor and opportunity of being out in the credit union space a lot when I
Okay.
was in my time at co-op, and I noticed a lot of things. I noticed I had the opportunity to be a concierge to 10 credit unions, and I saw the inner workings of 10 credit unions. I serve on the board of a credit union and two fintechs. I was able to see, and then I worked for a vendor partner of the credit union industry, and I saw all of the things that kind of were barriers to us delivering at our best. And I also saw challenges that credit unions were facing and barriers to them being their best. And when I became a free agent, I actually had like an avalanche of demand. And so I was really trying to decide where can I be of the greatest service? What can I do right now that supports the demand that's coming at me, and really leverage this unique place that I was in, that I actually got to be kind of embedded with several credit
Yep.
unions and see across the organizations, to have this incredible opportunity to have market research and client insights and all of this in working for a payments company. And then being able to really see so many fintechs and vendors wanting to do the right thing and just struggling to meet the mark. And so I kind of looked at it from a short-term perspective that I'll stand up an S corp and just get started. And
Right.
but then I had, the happy opportunity to have, there have been so many mergers in our industry that there's a lot of talent that gets released in those mergers. Incredible talent, incredible
Yeah.
talent that
Yeah.
has done this work since it just insanely seasoned, has been at it for years. And I love some of these human beings. I care about them deeply and wanted to create the opportunity to extend myself. I'm one
Yeah.
gal,
Yeah.
one brain. How can I bring the most talented minds together that can help solve these challenges, not in a silo like we had
Right.
before, not just in sales, not just in CX, not just in
Right.
strategy, but we bring it together. And you bring it together in a way that ensures technology investment, that ensures product investment, that ensures marketing investment, and these things are actually going to be successful. And
Yeah.
so that was my intention in starting out, that I just got started. And I have to give a shout out to Josh Herman and CU Wealth Next, who were my first client. And they're doing some really fun things in the wealth industry, and
Yep.
kind of democratizing wealth and making that available to all members, who might be going to Robinhood or doing it on their own through other
Right.
means. Credit unions should be in that mix.
Right.
Then more clients started coming. And so there's just a need in the space that I noticed, and I wanted to do something that was different, that really nobody else was doing. It's not an investment. It's not, we're not investing in technology. We're optimizing that technology to actually
Right.
deliver on its promise. And
Yeah.
credit unions need it. Credit unions need technology. They don't have the capital to be able to do it all themselves. So how can we ensure tech firms and partners of credit unions can help credit unions go faster and be excellent in what they do? And that was really my
Very
mission.
cool. That's awesome. It's certainly not a surprise to me that there was incredible demand for you as soon as you became available, because you are so connected and have been to so many of us for a long time in this industry. I think that perspective has given you a lot of opportunities to see things that different institutions are doing, different fintechs are doing in the industry. So I want to ask you a little bit about 2024,
Okay.
right? I'm going to throw out some technologies, services, things that are happening in the industry, and I want you to tell me, is it hot or not, right? And is it and why?
Okay.
Okay. So this is going to be kind of like rapid fire. Have some fun with it, okay?
Okay.
So what's your take on crypto? Because you brought it up, and now as of this time, it's roared back, right? What do you think? What's your thought on crypto right now?
I think we have to have our toe in the water. I think consumers are going to continue to be curious about it and pursue it. And I think we need to anticipate where it might be going. I don't think it's something that we should go all in on. like,
Mm-hmm.
uh, it is, it is going to be there. I actually watched a 2-hour podcast on where
Mm-hmm.
crypto's going and what's coming
Right.
in the next few years. And I don't want it to be this case of whiplash in the credit union industry
Mm-hmm.
where we were all about it and then we saw that there was risk and we're like, oh, we don't want to touch it. And
Right.
now, and then go, oh, we're all about it. I think we have to really have our eye on the ball of where it's going and have a state of readiness for it.
Mm-hmm.
There, there is going to be innovation here. Members will get on it. I'm sure it will be a usable currency, and
Mm-hmm.
we need to be thoughtful about that and be ready. Um, so
Are you seeing anything from a fintech perspective in regards to blockchain versus crypto? Crypto being the actual currencies, right? Are you talking to any folks about the use of blockchain from a financial services perspective, or is that still? Sometimes I feel like that's still a problem, a solution looking for a problem.
I still think it's a solution looking for a problem,
Okay.
but I do think it is really secure. I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
solves for a lot of challenges that
Can.
we face as being in the financial services space. So uh, I think again, it's it's having a creative mind, a creative mindset to say there are these technologies coming forward. We need to be thoughtful of the risk and reward of these
Mm-hmm.
technologies based on the consumer perspective. Consumer behavior, we need to guide what consumers and members are looking to their credit unions for is advice. Where should I
Mm-hmm.
be investing? There are people who have won really big on crypto and have lost their shirts on crypto,
Yep.
and they they need to be advised on the best path forward.
Right.
And really, it's rethinking who are we as a credit union and how do we best use these technologies in order to help
Yeah.
members' financial lives. So if that's the litmus test by which we look at all of these technologies,
Mm-hmm.
we'll be thinking the right ways. Some credit unions look at it super conservatively and saying
Mm-hmm.
all technology is not in our members' best interest.
Right.
There are some credit unions that think that way. And then there are some credit unions that are so bleeding edge and then have security issues or have other things. And so it's
Sure.
that risk reward balance and to not let your mindset go too far in one direction or too far in the other direction, which is the
Okay.
whiplash comment that I made.
Hyper personalization. Is that something is that real, or is
Real,
that just a buzzword?
real, super real,
Okay.
super real. This is what everybody's looking for. I mean, they
Mm-hmm.
expect you to know who they are, see their behavior, anticipate what they need next because they're so fragmented and decentralized. If I have a problem in my financial life, I have to remember, okay, which company am I using for that thing, that use case? How do I get in
Mm-hmm.
touch with them? It's so much harder today. Hyper personalization ensures that you're demonstrating you have the capability to deliver what that
Mm.
particular market segment needs, that you're going to interact with them in the way that they expect. And I'm seeing companies coming up, companies like MoneyLion, that are doing this in the banking, community banking, and credit union space that
Mm-hmm.
help you deeply understand your member, hyper personalize the solutions that show up in your app, and then be able to deliver content that aligns with those use cases based on that who that member is It's insane. To me, it is one of the strategies that's going to help you grow and deepen the relationship with the consumer to serve up the right use cases and the right products that then get them utilizing your credit union, which is really what we're seeking to do.
Is that, do you think that's the end game of AI?
It's one of the end games of AI. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's so many end games. I mean, on the reg techs, how many credit unions are struggling to keep up with all of the regulations? How
Right.
can we leverage reg tech to ensure and AI within that side of the world to make sure that we
Mm-hmm.
are compliant? Then you've got the experience side of the house saying, how can I deeply understand my consumer, serve up the right content, the right solutions to get them engaging with me and not with Chime? And so it
Right.
helps you, it gives you the data and the insight that then helps you create what should our product roadmap be? What are the next things we should introduce
Right.
or develop inside
Right.
the credit unions in order to win the moment? And we're working on winning the moment right now.
Yeah. Speaking of moments whose times may have come and gone, what about shared branching?
Oh,
So I actually heard a credit union. I hadn't heard this in so long. I heard a credit union advertising shared branching, and I was like, "Listen, I'm in the industry, and I haven't heard that in a very long time. Is it still necessary in our digital world?"
yes, because sometimes you need extra support. So I give you
Okay.
my example of I did everything digitally to set up my business.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had a hiccup or some things go bump in the night. You call the contact center, you call the 800 number, and you get some bumpy service. The bump in the night
Yeah.
it turns into bumpy service. And you're like,
Yeah.
I just need to go walk into the damn branch.
Right.
And
Right.
lo and behold, one of the multinational institutions was not in the state I was in or didn't have a
Right.
conveniently located branch. Shared branching, people want the safety blanket, their whoopee that says, "Oh, I've got a branch
Right.
down the street and I can go in there and get service and they'll understand me." It's thinking about the constellation of
Right. Oh, there you go.
of engagement and service, whether that's digital, whether that's voice, whether that's in person, high touch, that
Okay.
enables that consumer to trust this is the FI for me, and I'm going to have all of my use cases with this FI. But yes, shared
Open.
branching demonstrates I'm convenient, I'm accessible, I've got great service, I can be high touch
Right.
and highly digital. So it's
Right.
I that's one that's near and dear to my heart and something that has been important to credit unions is to demonstrate they've got a large footprint and can serve members based on their varied needs. And that's one of the reasons why that was stood up.
Based on that, is there what's your take on the value of open banking?
Huge value, huge value.
Okay.
So if you talk about this idea of the consumer has 40 different financial relationships, how do you make it easy to move money and to do things between those entities? Open
Mm-hmm.
banking makes that possible, and we're seeing that in Europe. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's working over there. There's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of things to be mindful of, that key learnings that we actually have the advantage of seeing the what's happened there
Yeah.
and what can we learn and be able to kind of implement it in the right way over here. But I do think it smooths out the consumer journey and makes it easy for them to connect for their own personal balance sheets. How do
Mm-hmm.
I get all these things done between FIs? And that can be very scary for the consumer.
Right.
It's like, oh, I'm going to do something, do a transaction between multiple parties, and it's going to go out into the ether. And then how
Right.
do I track that? Like it's scary. So
Mm-hmm.
I think the benefit of open banking is that it kind of helps to smooth that out, reduce the fear, and if done right, reduce the risk of those things.
Is there, what do you think? You've had a tremendous 2024, right? What do you think, because as you look back over the year, what are some of the big kind of aha moments that you had, or that you think the industry has had, kind of looking back at the year?
Well, it has been such a dynamic year of change. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the merger activity in our industry is this year and last year. It just, between credit unions, between
Mm-hmm.
QSOs,
Yep.
between different associations,
Yep.
happening everywhere. And it's also, we've just have such consolidation. We've had so much innovation going so fast. And I think credit unions are saying, we want speed, we want speed, we want speed.
Mm-hmm.
And they're also trying to say, they're trying to go so fast and actually not knowing which use case to go after. And
Mm-hmm.
they see each, you go to a conference like Venture Tech, or you explore, you have an afternoon with Nick Evans and explore all of the wonderful companies that are in
Right.
Circle Collective. You just see all of these new innovations coming, and you start saying, I need that, I need that, I need that. How do you kind of create that roadmap that is really smart and
Yeah.
that is going to drive the growth for your credit union?
Mm-hmm.
It's really easy to kind of go back, and I kind of come back to what I said at the top of the hour,
Mm-hmm.
and is that we can't bring innovation that we want to sell.
Mm-hmm.
We need to bring innovation that the consumer needs and that furthers their financial life. And how do we bundle those solutions together based on consumer journeys? I always say, take the silos and turn them horizontal and think it through. What is the typical onboarding and the onboarding journey? What are going to be the
Mm-hmm.
things that a new member needs right off the bat that's going to get them using the credit union to its maximum potential? And
Right.
you have a really deep think about that and say, what are all of the use cases that we need? And what's going to smooth that out? Like, how do we make sure they've got money movement? They've got contactless. They've got P2P. They get their first 5 transactions free on their debit card. Like, is
Mm-hmm.
their debit card digitally issued? Can they
Right.
see everything through the app? It's thinking of it from the member's standpoint. And then you
Right.
think, what's the next journey that the member is going to go on? And first,
Right.
do we deeply understand who our member base is? Really?
Mm-hmm.
Really, do we deeply understand? So those are things that I'm noticing among credit union leaders. And there's a bit of a fear there that there's so much consolidation. This is overwhelming. There's so much to do. Which vendor do I go to for each of these use cases? Are they ready? Can they integrate into my environment?
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot for credit unions to
Yeah.
kind of wrap their head around, and creating the connective tissue between the member, the products you have, and the outcomes, and then holding vendors accountable to be part of your team, to be embedded
Yeah.
in those decisions, is
Yeah.
really important. But I think credit unions are grappling with all of this change and saying,
Mm-hmm.
how are we going to, kind of start with the smallest visible market, which is our existing member base? How do we
Mm-hmm.
maximize that? And then develop engagements and solutions that are going to get us to the next market and the next market and the next market.
Right.
It all
Right.
comes back to the consumer and the member, and designing yourself around that member, and not think about it from a product perspective, but think about your growth from your member perspective.
Right. And that is exactly why you started the Power and Light Collaborative.
That
Right.
is
So now
exactly
we have
why.
we have come full circle.
I
So I've got one last question for you. This is going to be the last. You're going to be the last guest of the year, right? It's been a big year for us. What do you hope Santa brings you? What's on your Christmas list this year?
Oh, well, I'm on the eve of my 50th birthday. And
No, say it ain't
yeah, this
so.
is really exciting. Like I feel like 2025 is like exciting.
Mm-hmm.
It is the next, the next 10 years of the journey. And I just hope Santa brings me some peace and joy and fun. And this holiday season, I just want to spend it with my closest friends.
Mm-hmm.
And if I really wanted something, I think I might invest in an e-bike for myself because I love going
Ah,
biking with my son and kind of expanding the area that we can ride our bikes to.
yeah,
So really
very
big in the
cool.
beach community.
Very good,
Joy
very
and
good.
love.
Well, Sam, if there's anybody who deserves a little peace and happiness, it is certainly you. You've had a heck of a year. You are a great contributor to our industry. So thank you very much for joining us today. It was lovely having you on the show.
Well, it's always a pleasure to hang out with you, Kris. So I'll be back anytime. And thank you and have
Well,
the best holiday.
I don't know. We might add guest host to your list.
I'm in. I'm in.
Awesome. Awesome, Sam. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This podcast is sponsored by Constellation. We're empowering community financial institutions with innovative digital solutions, powered by Fintech, driven by your roadmap. Join us as we navigate the future of digital banking together. For more information on how we can be your partner for digital transformation, visit www.constellation.coop.
What an absolute joy at the end of the year to sit down with our great friend, Samantha Paxton, and talk a little bit about her experience, her amazing ride this year, as well as the industry that we both love so very much. From all of us to you, I hope you have a very happy holiday season. Thank you very much for sharing this year with us here on the FinTech Combine podcast. We couldn't do it without you. Thanks for sharing it. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for liking all of those things. Thanks to all of our guests that have been on this year. But I'd like to reserve a special thank you to our producer, Anson Beckler-Jones. Anson has been the quiet artist behind the scenes that makes all of this look so great. We absolutely could not do it without him. He is the consummate professional. So Anson, thank you. I think Santa might bring you a little extra present. Thanks everyone for watching. Please enjoy your holiday season. We will see you next time.